welcome to Got a Minute. This is the mini podcast show that combines humor columns with original music. Today's chapter is entitled Emotional Rescue. It's kind of the origin story of a romance that combines new young love with burning cars. And we pair that with an original song by Anjanette called Afraid of the Way. And she'll be on in a few minutes to talk to us about her song and its origin in just a few minutes. I know you're going to dig it.
This podcast is a presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners.
Chapter 11, Emotional Rescue. My first car was a 1973 Grand Prix Pontiac. I inherited it from my great-grandparents. It was a grumpy machine with a powerful engine that sat way out front like a team of horses. You didn't drive down the road so much as you charged. The car snarled and chewed gasoline and possessed both lanes of traffic because it could. We called it the Silver Bullet. The Silver Bullet didn't sneak or operate inconspicuously. When I left for swim practice every morning at 5:30 a.m., she told every neighbor for 3 houses down we were leaving. When I came home at night after a second practice and an after-school job, her door slam echoed like cannon fire. She wanted people to know we'd been out. She was defiant next to that mousy blue Honda Accord with its quiet, demure lawnmower engine. We'd been out doing real work in a real car, and she didn't care who knew it. One late night on the way home from a swim meet, I found myself alone on Silver Lake Road. It's a long, flat stretch of 2 lanes that feels like a speedway. The night was aglow with moonlight and the radiant halo of dash lights. My speedometer read 50, then 60, then 70. I looked past the red line. 100 miles per hour. What does that feel like? I punched my foot to the floor like a crack of a whip. The horses neighed and bucked, and then, like they were taking a dare, they lunged forward and raced as one, each pressing against the night. And that's when it happened. That was the instant I discovered the first flying car. The Silver Bullet ignited and roared, and then, like the eye of a hurricane, she went calm. We sailed over 2 lanes of asphalt runway, alone in the world. I was Major Tom on my own space odyssey. Highway 60 quickly arose on the horizon, and I called the horses down. The rush of wind through the open windows slowed, and we safely re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. We vowed to speak of our flying discovery to no one. As miraculous as that night had been, I could tell the Silver Bullet was starting to feel her age. When you turned the car off, the horses didn't go to sleep right away. They ticked and coughed and belched a bit. We were starting to leak oil. She was way up there in auto years, so little incontinence was to be expected. Then there were bigger things, like how she died any time I turned left in the middle of intersections. I came home after one of these episodes, and I tried to explain the problem to my dad. He wasn't having any of it. And, to his defense, whose car just dies when you turn left? It sounded like a line. He promptly grabbed the keys from my hands and marched us both out to the Bullet. She was still ticking and snorting from the ride home. Dad flung open the driver's door, dropped into the seat, and with all the force of a "I'll show you" moment, he shoved the keys into the ignition. Silver responded by dropping the entire steering column into his lap. I believe we donated the car to the Salvation Army the next day. It's unclear if we went through the official donation procedures or if the car just ended up there early the next morning. My dad wouldn't want the publicity of such a generous contribution. Before she left us, Silver did manage to serve as my accomplice in an act of chivalry that I am convinced to this day is the reason I eventually married my wife. Anjanette's car was a 1976 midnight blue Fiat 128 two-door sedan, complete with moon white leather seats. While Silver charged at you, the Fiat politely surrendered the right of way. Our cars had taken us to the edge of the universe, or at least the edge of town, where we would routinely check each other's dental work. But that's beside the point. In the story at hand, I was again in the Silver Bullet and again at the corner of Silver Lake and Adams. As I charged east through the intersection and up the long hill, I saw a cute blonde standing beside a motionless midnight blue Fiat on the side of the busy Adams Boulevard. I recognized the beauty and distress from Miss Reihart's American Lit class. So, at the top of the hill, I turned the team of horses around and rode back for the rescue. The Fiat was a nice, functional car. It had been broken in as a family wagon in the mountains of New Mexico. It really only had one quirk. It caught fire. Kind of trumps dying on left turns. By the time I was coming down Adams, large black smoke billows were signaling trouble. I arrived to find the contents of Anjanette's car strewn across a 20-foot radius of the shoulder. We grew up in the 70s and 80s. If A-Team had taught us anything, it was that cars instantly exploded at the sight of fire. The smallest wreck ended up in auto eruptions. Anjanette acted accordingly, tossing everything out of her car and sheltering in a nearby ditch. Fortunately, our off-duty history teacher, Mr. Love, arrived on the scene and quickly extinguished the flames before the entire city was engulfed. I arrived, however, just in time for the emotional rescue. I think we know that's the really important one. I told Mr. Love I'd handle it from here. With a strong hand, I lifted my trembling future wife from the ditch and passed the avalanche of personal effects. As onlookers threatened to snarl Bartlesville's notorious rush hour traffic, I brushed her Aquanet stiffed hair back, and still holding her cheek in my palm, I asked, "Hey, that was close. Are you okay?" The trauma of the moment was too much. She collapsed into my arms. I carried her back to the safety of the Bullet, who was waiting 50 feet away. I would have parked closer, but I didn't want my car to explode too. I kissed her gently on the clean part of her forehead and charged hard into the sunset, taking her home. The thing is, Silver was a great car. It was huge and safe and guzzled gas. But I'm not sure I would put my daughter in a car like the Bullet, or God forbid, Anjanette's flammable Fiat. And I'm not completely sure why that is. Why is it we're so anxious to save our kids from the character building lessons we conquered in our youth? Maybe the reality is it has less to do with character and everything to do with safety. Innovations move so much faster now. In high school, most of my friends had cars that were a full decade newer than mine. Yet, in those 10 years, the only big advancements were smaller cars and stereos with both AM and FM stations and a built-in CD player. True, most of them didn't die during left turns, but that wasn't really by design. Today, not only will cars park for you, they'll automatically stop before you rear end someone. There are airbags for you, your kids, and your smartphone. Cars have built-in Wi-Fi. Innovation will not only increase in the next 10 years, it will leapfrog. And of all those safety features and gadgets they'll add to cars, there's really only one I care about: surveillance. Because while God may be my daughter's co-pilot, it's going to be her Father who art on earth that's going to be watching every move she makes. Good luck, honey. Well, for our audience, we've reached that point now, having heard the humorous column, in which we pair that column with a song, an original song from Anjanette. Hello, Anjanette.
Hello, how are you? It was quite humorous.
I am fine.
I love
Thank
that
you.
story. Several stories. It's how all this magic happened.
As we say, it's funny and true.
It's true because it's funny, or
Yeah.
funny because it's true.
What song are we pairing today?
Well, you have selected a song that I wrote a while back called I'm Afraid of the Way I Love You.
Oh, how apropos.
It is apropos.
Okay, tell me a little bit about how the song came about.
Let's see. I was writing that song probably a few years back. And as we know, love is a powerful emotion.
Yes.
And so I hate to tell you because your story was so funny and it was about our deep love for one another.
Yes.
But the song actually came about thinking about the way that I loved our daughter.
Oh, my
Does that
gosh.
hurt your feelings?
No.
Okay.
I knew that.
You knew that. Yeah. But it's the idea really that anytime you have a deep love for somebody, sometimes that bond, and when we, you and I have had our bond for a long time.
Yes.
And when we had that new bond with her a while back, all of a sudden it's so big and so powerful, feels so different that
Yes.
you can actually be afraid of it. So for me, that's what the song was about. It says, I'm afraid of the way that I love you.
Obviously, when you write, songs can go in a bunch of different genres and directions and all that stuff. This song is, to me, kind of reminiscent of late 80s, early 90s, kind of almost new wave, funky. It's got a whole
Oh, thank
mystical feel to it,
Yeah,
which is super
definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the melodies or the sound or picking instruments or
I remember that, like, I'm a kind of a bright, positive, optimistic person. Not that I don't have, struggles. Oh,
Yeah.
I do. But I remember that it was in a minor key and that it felt very it was sort of demonstrating the fear of the love that I felt.
Yeah.
But then I think it's interesting in the bridge, as people listen, that's kind of the part that connects sometimes two parts of a song together. That actually ends up being in a major key.
Yeah.
Because the song I kind of use, I guess, is I don't really think about writing a lot of times too deep when it's happening. It's just sort of later I can reflect on it. And I realize that in the bridge, I'm actually confessing that I'm afraid of losing that love, that it's so deep. And so in the bridge, I'm saying, I'm going to lay it out there. I'm going to lay it out there. So it was sort of my confessional. It's something that we all share together. Yeah. They say to love is to make a compact with pain.
That's
I always hated that quote and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's true. So for me, a lot of times I think I end up processing with writing. So that song was me saying, I'm afraid of losing this. It's so deep.
Yeah.
And that's how love is for everyone if we're honest about it. So we're going to lay it out there with each other.
Well, it's a great marriage of content and lyric and music, and so I'm anxious for everybody to hear it. So let's take a listen to it now.
Thank you.
This is Afraid of the Way. It's by Ann Jeanette, and you can find it on iTunes or streaming everywhere.
And thanks for listening.
Since first I spoke your name, and when I saw your eyes, I knew I'd never be the same. My heart reborn in yours 1,000 different ways, and now we're intertwined until the end of days. The end of days. I'm afraid of the way I love you, and I fear how I need you so. And in my heart, I knew that's the way it would be. That's why I waited so long to see if it was true. If it was true. Better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. I'm not convinced that's true when you have so far to fall. All I can do with this is pray my fear away. I'll close my eyes and say I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for today. I'm afraid of the way I love you, and I fear how I need you so. And in my heart, I knew that's the way it would be. Gonna lay it out there. I'm gonna lay it out there.
As always, you can share this podcast with anyone you think would get it by sending the link now. Thanks for listening.